Welcome to the channel. I'm Darren Farwell of the Farwell Group with Scotia Wealth Management. And this series was created to help you find financial freedom. In each video, we discuss topics, strategies, and concepts relevant to you in your life. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell below to receive notifications of new videos. Today, we'll discuss wills. Which stage of life should you create one? We'll talk about the ideal timing for wills and estate planning. How often should you update your will? And after we finish talking about that, we'll do a few Q&As. There's no bad time to have a carefully considered will. Helping those people you care about, those causes you care about, not have unnecessary delays if something happens to you, and as importantly, your estate doesn't have to pay too much tax. Okay, back to the point. What are the real trigger points for having a will? Well, a couple of times that are just glaringly obvious. When you're getting married, when you enter into a common law relationship, the benefits that you get as a common law spouse are quite different if you're married versus a common law relationship. So really important to look into that in a little more detail. If you buy real estate, whether it's a vacation property or an investment property or a principal resident, when you have a child, because you're going to have to consider things like guardians. If you have savings more than $10,000, if you're starting a business, if there's a serious illness, you need to think about what the consequences might be. In fact, you might have a separate will for your business. It's called a secondary will. That's something to think about. Another use that people don't think about as often is, what if you want to leave someone out of your will? Well, you better have a will that makes it clear about those who you don't want included in your will. Okay, now you've got your will. Excellent. But when do you need to update it? There are some times at which it's really important that you make sure you go back and revisit your will. One example is divorce or separation. It wouldn't be the first story of someone who's ended up leaving an ex-spouse a lot more money than they meant to because they didn't update their will. End of a common law relationship also would be a time to update your will. If you've got a will, but something happens to one of the executors or one of the beneficiaries in the will, that means you need to change it so that your legacy is going to the right people. On the birth of a child, if you have a real estate purchase, a vacation property, a second property, an investment property, these are times where you for sure want to go in and make sure you have a review of your will and make the appropriate updates. But outside of that, really suggest that you review your will. Even if you can't think of any obvious changes, it's a good practice to review your will every 3 to 5 years, just depending on how complex your situation is. The will's a living document, so don't let it gather too much dust. Pick it up, have a look. One thing you definitely do not want to happen is die without a will, because if you die without a will, all of your assets, all of those estate assets will end up in the court systems. Being appointed an executor used to be quite a position of pride, but over the last decades, the role of the executor has become very complex and litigious. Often we see people who've been appointed executors saying, I don't want to be the executor. There are services that you can hire, trust companies, lawyers, who will assist the executor to get the job done. And a very good idea is in designing your will, making sure the executor in your will has the right to hire a third party to assist in getting the role of the executor done. Now, what in the case of someone dies with some debts? Assuming that there's money in the estate, let's say the estate has $1 million, but there's $200,000 worth of debt outstanding. That debt would be deducted against the value of the estate. So instead of being $1 million, the estate would be $1 million minus the $200,000 worth of liabilities, $800,000, and it would be that lower number would then be available to be distributed according to the will. Some families have very complex situations, multiple families, multiple businesses, multiple properties, or simply just a lot of wealth. That can be very complex. And there may not be one executor or a person who would be able to do a good job, not to mention want to do the job of being an executor for a complex estate like that. In which case, you can consider hiring a trust company. The Canadian trust companies are set up to manage the role of executor, crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's. So if you have a complex estate, you might consider getting a trust company to be your executor. And remember, wills are very sensitive to where you live. So keep in mind that if you happen to live in a different province or a different country than your family, you definitely want to make sure you have a will that takes that into account. For more information on wills and estate planning, be sure to check out the resources we've included below. Finding financial freedom doesn't have to be scary or an overwhelming goal. In fact, it may be closer to reality than you ever imagined. Tune in next time as we share more tips and concepts. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell below for notification for future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch, please don't be afraid to email us at the address below in the description. Bye for now.